Winter dinners once brought families together with hearty roasts and comforting casseroles, filling homes with warmth and rich aromas. Today, many of these beloved dishes have faded from our tables, but their stories and flavors remain unforgettable. Let's look at 30 of these incredible roast dishes that have vanished from the family table. Roast capon.
Okay, Papa, here's the capon.
Oh, beautiful.
Once a symbol of festive indulgence, roast capon was a centerpiece of winter feasts in Europe, particularly during the Victorian era. A capon is a young rooster that has been castrated to improve the texture of its meat, resulting in a tender and succulent bird. Historically, capons were prized for their size, larger than a chicken but smaller and more manageable than a turkey, making them perfect for intimate gatherings. To prepare a roast capon, chefs would first brine the bird overnight, infusing it with a blend of salt, sugar, and aromatic herbs like bay leaves, thyme, and rosemary. After brining, the capon would be trussed and stuffed with a flavorful mixture of breadcrumbs, dried fruits, and chestnuts. Roasted to golden perfection with a glaze of butter and honey, the bird developed a crisp, caramelized skin that contrasted beautifully with its juicy interior. This dish's popularity began to wane in the mid-20th century due to the rise of mass-produced poultry. Turkeys and chickens became more affordable and accessible, leaving the capon as a niche delicacy. Today, it's a rare find, often overshadowed by its more common counterparts. We now turn to the hearty embrace of a dish that defined warmth and comfort on chilly evenings. Lamb casserole. A staple of rustic kitchens in Britain and Australia, lamb casserole was once synonymous with cozy winter meals. This hearty dish showcased the natural richness of lamb, slow-cooked to tenderness alongside an assortment of vegetables. Its roots trace back to humble beginnings, where farmers used tougher cuts of meat to create affordable yet flavorful meals for their families. To prepare a lamb casserole, chunks of lamb, shoulder, or neck would be browned in a cast-iron pot to lock in flavor. Onions, carrots, and parsnips were added next, followed by a sprinkle of flour to thicken the dish. A splash of red wine and a generous helping of beef stock brought depth to the dish, while sprigs of rosemary and bay leaves infused it with earthy warmth. Slow cooking for several hours ensured the meat became melt-in-your-mouth tender, and the broth transformed into a luscious, gravy-like sauce. This dish fell out of favor as quicker cooking methods and lighter meals became popular, but it remains a nostalgic reminder of simpler times. Lamb casserole was a meal made to warm not just the body, but the soul, perfect for sharing on frosty evenings. Up next is a dish that brings a taste of the sea to the winter table. Tuna and macaroni bake.
This creamy tuna pasta bake is superb comfort food.
Tuna and macaroni bake, a creamy and cheesy dish, epitomized mid-century American comfort food. Emerging during World War II when canned goods were abundant and fresh ingredients were scarce, this casserole became a household favorite for its affordability and convenience. By the 1950s, it was a staple at family dinners and potlucks, often touted as the busy mom's lifesaver. To make this dish, elbow macaroni was boiled until al dente, then tossed in a velvety sauce made from condensed cream of mushroom soup, mayonnaise, and shredded cheddar cheese. Canned tuna was folded into the mix, providing a salty, protein-rich component, and a layer of crushed potato chips or breadcrumbs topped it off, adding a satisfying crunch. Baked until golden and bubbling, the aroma filled the home with warmth and nostalgia. While this dish thrived for decades, evolving culinary tastes and the move toward fresher ingredients led to its decline. Today, it's seen as a relic of post-war practicality, remembered fondly by those who grew up with it. Let's now take a look at a hearty and nutritious meal that blends sustenance with tradition. Lamb shank and barley soup.
This in the middle of winter, it is her lamb shank and veggie soup. So easy to do.
This robust and filling dish has its origins in rural Europe, where lamb shanks and barley were cheap, readily available ingredients that could feed a family through harsh winters. With its balance of protein, fiber, and warming spices, lamb shank and barley soup was both a meal and a cure for the cold. To prepare, the lamb shanks were first seared to caramelize the meat, creating a rich base for the soup. Onions, garlic, celery, and carrots were sautéed in the same pot, soaking up the browned bits left behind. Barley, often referred to as a peasant grain, was added for its nutty flavor and chewy texture. The soup was seasoned with thyme, bay leaves, and a pinch of nutmeg, then simmered for hours until the shank meat fell off the bone and the barley became tender. This dish began to fade as global cuisines brought lighter, quicker soups to the forefront. Yet, it remains a testament to the art of slow cooking and the ability to turn simple ingredients into something extraordinary. Next on the list is a playful twist on an appetizer. Sweet chili glazed pigs in a blanket.
Every Christmas dinner needs pigs in blankets, and plenty of them. I'm going to show you how to make these little bites of sausage and bacony goodness.
While pigs in a blanket are still a party favorite, this sweet chili glazed variation brought a bold, contemporary twist to the classic snack. Inspired by Asian flavor profiles, this dish gained traction in the late 1990s but disappeared as trends shifted to simpler recipes and less adventurous palates. Mini sausages were wrapped in flaky puff pastry, just as the classic version dictated. But before baking, a glaze made from sweet chili sauce, honey, and a dash of soy sauce was brushed over each roll. The result? A perfect blend of sweet, savory, and spicy flavors wrapped in buttery pastry. This innovative take was often served at holiday parties and casual gatherings, offering a surprising kick to a familiar favorite. Despite its popularity, it eventually faded, perhaps due to the extra effort required to make the glaze. We return to tradition with our next dish, delicate and often forgotten: braised sweetbreads.
A vol au vent of braised sweetbreads in a truffled Madeira sauce.
Sweetbreads, a culinary term for the thymus or pancreas of young animals, have long been celebrated in French and Italian cooking for their creamy, delicate texture. This dish was a hallmark of upscale winter dinners in the 19th and early 20th centuries, showcasing the era's nose-to-tail philosophy. To prepare braised sweetbreads, the organ meat was first soaked in milk to remove impurities and tenderize it. After blanching, it was gently sautéed in butter until golden, then braised in a sauce of white wine, shallots, and veal stock. Herbs like tarragon and parsley added a fresh touch to the rich velvety dish. Sweetbreads fell out of favor as diners moved away from organ meats and toward leaner, more familiar cuts of meat. However, their creamy texture and unique flavor profile still make them a coveted dish for adventurous eaters. Let us ascend to the towering comfort of our next dish, an old-fashioned delight that's as grand as its name suggests. High pie. High pie, an architectural marvel of the dining table, was once a symbol of opulence at winter feasts. This towering dish, popularized in 18th century Britain, combined layers of pastry, meat, and savory fillings to create a visually stunning centerpiece. It was as much a spectacle as it was a meal, served during celebrations or grand dinners. To make a high pie, short crust pastry was molded into a tall, cylindrical shape, often using pie molds to achieve its impressive height. The filling could vary depending on the household or season, but a classic version included minced beef or venison, suet, and root vegetables like turnips and carrots. Aromatics like nutmeg, cloves, and thyme provided warmth, while a rich gravy tied the layers together. Once filled, the pie was sealed with a pastry lid, brushed with egg wash, and baked until golden. While high pies were revered for their grandeur, their labor-intensive preparation led to their decline in favor of simpler, less time-consuming dishes. Yet, their legacy remains in modern, smaller variations like pot pies. Up next is the familiar comfort of a perennial favorite of winter feasts: roast turkey and gravy.
Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm gonna show you how to make the greatest roast turkey and gravy.
Few dishes are as synonymous with festive gatherings as roast turkey and gravy. Although its association with Thanksgiving dominates in America, roast turkey was historically a winter staple across Europe, particularly during Christmas. Introduced to Britain in the 16th century, turkey eventually replaced goose as the centerpiece of celebratory meals. Preparing roast turkey requires meticulous care. The bird is seasoned generously, often with a mix of butter, garlic, and herbs such as sage and thyme, then stuffed with aromatics like onion, lemon, and celery. Basted frequently during cooking, the turkey develops a golden, crispy skin that locks in the juices. The drippings, combined with flour and stock, are transformed into a velvety gravy to accompany the dish. Despite its enduring popularity, roast turkey has seen competition from quicker-to-cook proteins like chicken or ham, particularly for smaller winter gatherings. Yet, the allure of carving a turkey at the table remains unmatched. Up next is a side dish that's just as decadent and rich as the main dishes: roast potatoes with truffle and parmesan. Roast potatoes have always been a staple of winter roasts, but this luxurious variation elevated the humble spud to gourmet heights. Truffle and parmesan roast potatoes became a sensation in the 2000s, blending earthy, umami flavors with a crispy, golden exterior. To prepare, potatoes like Yukon Gold or Maris Piper were parboiled until just tender, then tossed in olive oil or duck fat for added richness. A generous grating of parmesan and a sprinkle of sea salt coated the potatoes, which were roasted until crispy. Just before serving, shavings of black truffle or a drizzle of truffle oil added an unmistakable aroma and depth of flavor. While this dish found popularity in upscale restaurants and holiday menus, its cost and the niche appeal of truffle led to its gradual decline. However, it remains a decadent memory for those who enjoyed it. We now move to a lighter yet flavorful main course. Lemon, broccoli, and sesame roast chicken.
Today on the Stay at Home Chef, I'm showing you how to make a lemon garlic chicken and broccoli bake.
This modern twist on roast chicken brought a vibrant blend of flavors to winter dining tables in the late 20th century. Combining zesty citrus, roasted vegetables, and nutty sesame seeds, it was a refreshing alternative to heavier roasts. The preparation began with marinating a whole chicken in lemon juice, garlic, olive oil, and sesame oil. Broccoli florets were tossed in the same marinade, ensuring they were roasted to perfection alongside the chicken. The dish was seasoned with salt, pepper, and a sprinkle of sesame seeds before being oven roasted until golden. The result was a crispy, fragrant chicken surrounded by caramelized broccoli with a bright and tangy finish. While this dish gained popularity for its healthier profile, it faded as preferences shifted back to heartier, more traditional meals. Nonetheless, it showcased the versatility of roast chicken in modern cuisine. Next, we dive into the creamy indulgence of a side dish that once graced tables across Britain. Cheesy leek.
And it's cheesy leeks. And I love doing cheesy leeks because it's very simple to do. It's a lovely side dish.
Cheesy leeks were a comforting winter side dish, beloved for their simplicity and indulgence. Rooted in British farmhouse cooking, this dish transformed the humble leek, a staple of cold weather crops, into a luxurious accompaniment for roast dinners. To prepare, leeks were trimmed, halved, and boiled briefly to soften their delicate layers. They were then arranged in a baking dish and smothered in a rich bechamel sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and grated cheddar cheese. A sprinkling of breadcrumbs and more cheese on top ensured a golden, bubbly crust after baking. Cheesy leeks thrived in the mid-20th century when casseroles and oven-baked sides were the height of convenience. However, their popularity waned as lighter vegetable preparations became the norm. Still, for those who recall it, this dish is a nostalgic nod to the cozy dinners of winters past. Next on the list is a more vibrant winter dish: hot beetroot salad.
And today I have an absolutely fantastic Greek-inspired beet salad recipe for you.
Hot beetroot salad brought vibrant color and earthy sweetness to winter dinner tables, particularly in Eastern Europe, where beets have long been a culinary staple. This warm and nourishing dish was celebrated for its simplicity and its ability to brighten up hearty winter roasts with a pop of freshness. To make this salad, whole beets were roasted until tender, their natural sugars caramelizing to perfection. After peeling and slicing, the beets were tossed in a warm vinaigrette made from red wine vinegar, olive oil, Dijon mustard, and a touch of honey. Crumbled goat cheese or feta added creaminess, while toasted walnuts provided crunch and richness. Some recipes included fresh herbs like dill or parsley to bring a touch of brightness. This dish gained popularity in the mid-20th century as health-conscious diners embraced the nutritional benefits of beets. However, it gradually disappeared from tables as newer, trendier salads took its place. Nevertheless, it remains a cherished memory for those who appreciate its earthy flavors. We now move on to a comforting and hearty rustic side dish that perfectly complemented any winter roast: root vegetable mash.
Today we'll be making a delicious mashed root vegetable that has a horseradish cream sauce and roasted garlic.
Root vegetable mash was a cornerstone of winter meals, particularly in Northern Europe, where parsnips, carrots, turnips, and potatoes were abundant. This dish celebrated the season's bounty while offering a rich and velvety side to accompany roast dinners. To prepare, a medley of root vegetables was boiled until tender, then mashed together with butter, cream, and a pinch of nutmeg for warmth. Each vegetable added its unique flavor: the sweetness of carrots, the peppery notes of turnips, the nuttiness of parsnips, and the creaminess of potatoes. For added flair, some cooks included roasted garlic or fresh herbs like thyme and chives. Root vegetable mash was a practical way to stretch a meal during lean times, making it a common sight on tables through the 19th and early 20th centuries. However, it gradually gave way to simpler mashed potatoes or lighter vegetable dishes. Up next is the rich and aromatic depths of a fusion dish that added global flair to winter meals: Beef coconut curry. Beef coconut curry is a delicious blend of Indian and Southeast Asian culinary traditions, offering a warming, spicy alternative to traditional winter roasts. The dish became popular in the 70s as international flavors began to influence Western home cooking. To make this dish, tender cuts of beef, such as chuck or brisket, were slow cooked in a sauce made from coconut milk, curry powder, garlic, ginger, and onions. Additional ingredients like tomatoes and a touch of chili created a balance of creamy sweetness and heat. Vegetables like bell peppers or potatoes were often added to the pot, soaking up the rich, spiced broth. The curry was served with fluffy basmati rice or warm naan bread, making it a hearty and satisfying meal. While it enjoyed popularity for its exotic appeal, beef coconut curry gradually fell out of favor as lighter, vegetable-based curries took center stage. Today, it remains a nostalgic favorite for fans of its comforting, bold flavors. We now shift to a classic casserole dish, a creamy winter staple. Chicken and leek casserole.
Now, I thought today's recipe, I'm going to do a chicken casserole.
Chicken and leek casserole was a go-to comfort food in Britain and beyond, especially during the cold month. This creamy, hearty dish combined tender chicken with the mild sweetness of leeks, creating a warm and inviting winter meal. To prepare, chicken thighs or drumsticks were browned in a pot, followed by sautéed leeks, carrots, and garlic. A sauce made from chicken stock, white wine, and cream was poured over the ingredients, which were then slow cooked until the chicken was tender and the sauce thickened. Often, this casserole was topped with a golden layer of breadcrumbs or cheese, adding texture and richness. This dish became popular during the mid-20th century when casseroles symbolized comfort and practicality in the kitchen. However, it began to fade as lighter, more health-conscious recipes gained traction. Up next, we step into the bold, aromatic world of a retro favorite with a kick: curried sausages.
In today's video, I'm showing you how I prepare sausage curry.
Curried sausages were a beloved winter meal in the mid-20th century, especially in Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Britain. This dish offered a blend of spice, heartiness, and convenience, making it a go-to choice for families during the colder months. To prepare curried sausages, pork or beef sausages were first browned in a skillet, then simmered in a rich curry sauce. The sauce was typically made from onions, garlic, curry powder, and stock, with some recipes incorporating tomato paste, Worcestershire sauce, or even a splash of cream for added richness. Chopped vegetables such as carrots, potatoes, and peas were often added to the mix, making it a complete one-pot meal. Served over rice or mashed potatoes, curried sausages provided warmth and bold flavors on chilly nights. The dish gained popularity during the 1950s and 60s as a practical way to add an international twist to humble ingredients. Over time, as global cuisines became more accessible, curried sausages fell out of fashion in favor of more authentic curry recipes. However, they remain a nostalgic favorite for many who grew up with their comforting, spicy aroma. Next on the list is a dish steeped in tradition and slow-cooked perfection: slow cooker oxtail stew.
So I thought today I'd make something warming, comforting, and that's my oxtail stew. Now,
Slow cooker oxtail stew was a winter classic that showcased the art of transforming a humble cut of meat into a rich and luxurious dish. This stew, a staple in European and Caribbean kitchens, was prized for its deep, robust flavors and tender meat that fell off the bone. The preparation began with browning the oxtail pieces to develop a caramelized crust, followed by a slow, simmering process in a mix of red wine, beef stock, onions, carrots, and celery. Herbs such as bay leaves, thyme, and rosemary added earthy notes, while a touch of tomato paste provided a hint of sweetness. As the stew cooked for hours, the gelatin in the oxtail created a silky, flavorful broth. Historically, oxtail stew was considered a peasant dish, as oxtails were inexpensive and required long cooking times. However, it gained popularity in upscale dining during the late 20th century for its rich, hearty appeal. Despite its deliciousness, its decline came as people favored faster cooking cuts of meat. Up next is a pasta-based winter favorite: potato and beef ragu lasagna.
Just a little bit of prep is required for this amazing beef ragu.
Potato and beef ragu lasagna was a creative twist on the classic Italian favorite, bringing a uniquely hearty spin to winter meals. This dish, which combined thinly sliced potatoes with layers of beef ragu, cheese, and bechamel sauce, was a hit for its rich, indulgent flavor. To make it, a slow-cooked ragu was prepared by simmering ground beef with tomatoes, onions, garlic, and a splash of red wine until it thickened into a robust sauce. Instead of traditional lasagna sheets, thinly sliced potatoes were layered with the ragu, a creamy creamy bechamel sauce, and a generous sprinkling of mozzarella or parmesan. The dish was baked until the potatoes softened and the cheese bubbled into a golden crust. This variation likely originated as a practical adaptation, using potatoes as an economical alternative to pasta. It became a winter favorite for its comforting, starchy goodness, but eventually fell out of favor as traditional lasagna regained prominence. We now move to a robust and flavorful cut of meat: skirt steak.
Today, we are cooking up one of my favorite beef cuts from the grocery store, a good old skirt steak.
Skirt steak, a once popular winter roast, was celebrated for its bold, beefy flavor and versatility. This long, flat cut from the diaphragm of the cow was widely used in rustic winter meals, particularly in Latin American and European cuisines. Preparing skirt steak for a roast involved marinating it to tenderize the meat and infuse flavor. A marinade of olive oil, garlic, rosemary, and red wine was common, though variations included soy sauce, lime juice, or even beer. After marinating, the steak was seared over high heat to develop a flavorful crust before being roasted briefly in the oven. Sliced against the grain, it was served with sides like roasted vegetables or chimichurri for a burst of freshness. While skirt steak's intense flavor made it a favorite for winter feasts, its toughness required careful preparation. Over time, as more tender cuts became readily available, its popularity waned. Today, it's more commonly found in casual dishes like fajitas. Let's look at another sophisticated and aromatic dish on the list: braised veal with olives. Braised veal with olives was a sophisticated winter dish that highlighted Mediterranean flavors. Particularly popular in southern Italy and France, this dish balanced the mild, tender flavor of veal with the briny richness of olives and a fragrant tomato-based sauce. To prepare, veal shoulders or shanks were lightly seared to lock in flavor. Onions, garlic, and celery were then sautéed in olive oil before being deglazed with white wine. A tomato sauce infused with rosemary, thyme, and bay leaves formed the base, into which the veal was nestled. Green or black olives, often paired with a handful of capers, were added during the slow braising process. The result was a tender, aromatic dish that paired beautifully with creamy polenta or crusty bread to soak up the flavorful sauce. This dish gained popularity in the mid-20th century as European flavors became more prominent in Western cuisine. However, as veal fell out of favor in some regions due to ethical concerns, the dish became less common. Let us now journey to the Basque Country for a dish full of vibrant spices and bold flavors: chicken basque.
Look at that braised chicken.
Chicken basque was a vibrant and flavorful dish originating from the Basque region of Spain, known for its bold use of peppers, tomatoes, and spices. This colorful, one-pot meal was a winter favorite for its comforting and lively flavors. The preparation began by browning chicken thighs or drumsticks in olive oil. Sweet bell peppers, onions, and garlic were then sautéed until soft, creating a fragrant base. Tomatoes, white wine, and chicken stock were added to create a rich sauce, along with a generous pinch of smoked paprika and saffron for warmth and depth. Some variations included chorizo or olives for extra layers of flavor. The dish was slow cooked until the chicken was tender and the sauce thickened. Traditionally served with rice or crusty bread, chicken basque brought a Mediterranean warmth to cold winter evenings. Its decline can be attributed to the rise of quicker and simpler chicken dishes, though it remains a nostalgic classic for many. We now turn to a dish that blends sweetness and tang: ginger and tamarind roast ham. Ginger and tamarind roast ham brought a unique twist to traditional holiday roasts, combining the warmth of ginger with the tangy sweetness of tamarind. This fusion dish, inspired by Southeast Asian and Caribbean flavors, offered a bold and exciting alternative to classic honey-glazed ham. The ham was first simmered in water or cider to remove excess salt and prepare it for roasting. A glaze was then prepared by mixing tamarind paste with grated ginger, brown sugar, soy sauce, and a touch of chili for heat. Once scored, the ham was generously brushed with the glaze and roasted until caramelized and golden. The tamarind's tangy depth complemented the richness of the ham, while the ginger added a spicy kick. This dish gained popularity during the global food revolution of the 1980s, but slowly faded as diners returned to traditional, milder glazes. Today, it stands as a flavorful reminder of adventurous culinary experimentation. We now transition to the gamey richness of our next dish, a classic centerpiece of winter feasts: Roast venison. Roast venison was once a winter staple, particularly in rural areas where hunting traditions ensured a steady supply of game. Celebrated for its lean, rich flavor, venison offered a luxurious and hearty alternative to beef or lamb. To prepare, a venison loin or haunch was marinated in red wine, juniper berries, garlic, and rosemary to tenderize the meat and enhance its natural flavor. It was then seared to create a crust before being slow roasted to maintain its juiciness. The roast was often accompanied by a sauce made from the pan drippings, red currant jelly, and a splash of port or brandy. Sides like roasted root vegetables or creamy mashed potatoes completed the meal. Venison's popularity declined as game meat became less accessible and more expensive. However, it remains a favorite for special occasions among those who appreciate its unique, earthy flavor. Next on the list is a comforting and inventive dish, a savory winter bake. Herb cobbler. Herb cobbler was a creative winter dish that transformed simple ingredients into a hearty, warming meal. Popular in Britain and the United States, this savory bake consisted of a rich vegetable or meat filling topped with buttery herbed biscuits. The filling often featured a mix of braised beef or chicken, onions, mushrooms, and carrots simmered in a thick gravy made from stock, wine, and a touch of cream. Fresh herbs like thyme, parsley, and sage were incorporated into the biscuit dough, which was spooned over the filling in rustic dollops. Baked until golden, the biscuits absorbed the savory flavors of the stew below while providing a satisfying, flaky crust. This dish rose to prominence during wartime and the post-war era, when stretching ingredients was a necessity. Over time, it fell out of favor as lighter, quicker meals became popular. Next is a rich and indulgent appetizer, a forgotten luxury of the winter table. Beef marrow toasts.
Today, we're doing some fancy schmancy stuff. We're going to be doing some bone marrow.
Beef marrow toasts were a decadent winter treat, often served as a starter or side dish at festive gatherings. This dish showcased the rich, buttery flavor of bone marrow, long considered a delicacy in European cuisines. To prepare, beef bones were roasted until the marrow softened and became spreadable. The marrow was then scooped out and seasoned with salt, pepper, and fresh herbs like parsley or thyme. Toasted slices of rustic bread provided the perfect vehicle for this luxurious spread, which was often accompanied by a sharp salad or a drizzle of lemon juice to cut through its richness. Beef marrow toasts were popular in the 19th and early 20th centuries, especially in French and British households. However, they fell out of favor as dietary trends shifted away from indulgent fatty foods. Despite this, their rich flavor and unique texture remain unforgettable for those who once enjoyed them. Up next is a dish that was once the star of the table before roast turkey took over. Roast goose with sage and onion stuffing.
Today I want to share with you an easy roast goose recipe.
Roast goose was once the centerpiece of winter feasts across Europe, especially in Germany and England, long before turkey became the star of the holiday table. Its rich, flavorful meat and crispy golden skin made it a favorite during the colder months, often paired with a savory stuffing. To prepare, the goose was seasoned inside and out with salt and pepper, then stuffed with a mix of sage, breadcrumbs, onions, and sometimes apples for a touch of sweetness. The bird was slow roasted to render its fat, which was collected and used for cooking other dishes. Served alongside red cabbage, roasted potatoes, and gravy, roast goose was a luxurious yet practical dish, as its fat was highly prized in traditional kitchens. Despite its deep-rooted history, the goose gradually lost its place to turkey due to the latter's milder flavor and larger size. However, for those who still prepare it, the goose remains a symbol of old-world holiday traditions. We now move to a dish that combines the sweetness of fruit with the savory depth of pork. Cider braised pork roast.
Apple cider braised pork roast.
Cider braised pork roast brought rustic charm to winter dinners with its tender meat and a sauce infused with the tangy sweetness of apples. This dish was particularly popular in Britain and colonial America, where cider was a staple beverage. The preparation involved searing a pork shoulder or loin until golden, then braising it in a mix of apple cider, onions, garlic, and fresh thyme. As it slow cooked, the cider reduced into a glossy sauce, perfectly complementing the savory pork. Some variations added sliced apples or mustard for an extra layer of flavor. It was typically served with mashed potatoes or root vegetables, making it a cozy and satisfying meal. As cider fell out of common use in cooking, this dish became less frequent on dinner tables. Yet its combination of simple ingredients and bold flavors continues to evoke nostalgia for hearty winter fare. Up next is another equally tender classic dish: Braised duck with orange glaze.
Today I want to share with you the best roast duck recipe.
Braised duck with orange glaze was a refined winter dish that blended the richness of duck with the zesty brightness of citrus. A hallmark of French cuisine, it gained international fame as duck à l'orange, delighting diners with its elegant presentation and complex flavors. The duck was first seared to crisp its skin before being braised in a sauce made from orange juice, chicken stock, honey, and a splash of brandy. The result was tender meat coated in a glossy, tangy glaze, often garnished with orange slices for a pop of color. Served with roasted vegetables or wild rice, it was a sophisticated centerpiece for winter gatherings. While duck à l'orange enjoyed popularity through the 1970s, its decline came as diners began seeking lighter, simpler meals. Even so, its legacy endures as a symbol of culinary indulgence. Our journey takes us to yet another hearty favorite: venison and juniper stew.
So today we're going to cook a venison casserole dish.
Venison and juniper stew was a winter classic in Nordic and Alpine regions, where game meat was abundant and juniper berries added a distinct woodsy aroma. This dish showcased the rich, gamey flavor of venison, elevated by earthy spices and herbs. The stew began with browning venison chunks to develop a deep flavor, followed by simmering them with juniper berries, red wine, garlic, and root vegetables such as carrots and parsnips. Rosemary, thyme, and bay leaves rounded out the seasoning, while the juniper lent a subtle pine-like bitterness. Slow cooked to perfection, the meat became meltingly tender, and the broth thickened into a hearty, aromatic sauce. Once a staple in rural winter kitchens, this stew gradually faded as venison became less accessible and more expensive. For those who still prepare it, however, it's a timeless nod to the flavors of the forest. We end our food journey with a regal dish once reserved for special occasions: beef Wellington.
Stick around and I'm going to show you the perfect recipe for a beef Wellington.
Beef Wellington was a show-stopping winter roast, combining the richness of beef tenderloin with the flaky elegance of puff pastry. A symbol of British culinary refinement, it was a popular centerpiece for festive gatherings during the 20th century. The dish began with a beef fillet, seared to lock in its juices and coated with a mixture of finely chopped mushrooms, shallots, and herbs sautéed in butter. Some recipes added pâté for extra decadence. The beef was then wrapped in prosciutto, followed by a golden puff pastry, and baked until the crust was crisp and the meat was perfectly medium rare. Served with a red wine reduction or creamy mustard sauce, it was a dish that embodied luxury and skill. Though it remains a classic in fine dining, beef Wellington has largely disappeared from home kitchens due to its complexity and preparation time. Still, its iconic status ensures it's remembered as one of winter's most impressive roasts. And that concludes our list of winter roast dishes that vanished from the family table. Which foods from the list do you remember from your childhood? Which ones do you think we should have talked about? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more nostalgic food journeys. Until next time.